What's up guys, my name's Brandon and Apple has just released their annual major software update, iOS 16. And in this video, we're going to be doing a mega deep dive into the software to take a look at every single new feature and change. And if you want to see the first settings you absolutely need to change in iOS 16, check out that video after this one. It is linked up in the cards and down in the description below. So before we get into all the new features, let's first take a look at the size of this update. And you can see here, it came in over 5 gigabytes for me. Now let's briefly take a look at the build number and the modem. So if we go to the settings, general, about, we will see that the build number here for iOS 16 is 20A362. And there might be a slight variation to that build number, so just keep that in mind. And if we go down to the modem firmware, you can see that has been updated to 2.09.01. So in theory, you should have better cell connectivity. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 16? And the first thing is actually in the section that we were just in. So if you go to settings, general, about, you can see throughout this video, I'm gonna have iOS 16 on the right, iOS 15 on the left. So in this section, you will see that it now says iOS version instead of software version. Also, it shows the build number without having to tap on the software version. And also you could tap into iOS version to see more details about that specific software update. And if we go back in our settings to settings, general, and then software update, and then go to automatic updates up here, you will see that we have a new option at the bottom for security responses and system files. And while we're in this section, we also have a change in the software update section. So if we go to that and then go to automatic updates, you will see that we can now see the install iOS updates toggle right there without turning on the download iOS update. So before you had to turn it on, before you could see install iOS updates. And then we also have this new toggle down here that says security responses and system files. So what this means is that if you enable this, security updates are going to be able to be automatically applied to your device without having to do like your standard typical software update. So it's going to make security fixes easier to push to your device and install on your device so that you can be protected as soon as possible without needing to install, a whole new software update. So I would probably recommend turning this on for most users. All right, let's get out of the settings and talk about the fun stuff in iOS 16, starting with one of the biggest visual changes, and that is the lock screen. So this is what the new lock screen looks like in iOS 16. It is awesome. So as you guys know, on iOS 15, it was pretty simple. We had the date and time, we had some quick toggles at the bottom and our wallpaper, and that's pretty much it. Our notifications came in just very standard, nothing too special. But now with iOS 16, it has been completely redesigned from the ground up, and there are a ton of things to change on the lock screen. Now, I do have a separate video talking specifically about the lock screen and how to set it up and get the most out of it. So if you want to watch that, I will leave that video up in the cards right now and also down in the description below. But a quick and easy way to get to the lock screen is obviously it's the same as the notification center. So just pull down and then just simply tap and hold on the wallpaper and you will be brought to this screen right here where you can see I have all these different wallpapers set up. Now you also have the add button down in the bottom right. We also have customize. If we wanted to customize one of our wallpapers, we could also swipe over to add a new one. So let's go ahead and start with a brand new wallpaper so I can show you guys how this works. So from here, we have different sections. So we have our featured section, we have our weather and astronomy section, which is really cool. It shows like the live weather. We have the earth and moon. I'll show you those in a minute. We have the emoji, we have collections, and we have color. Now, if you want to get like your traditional background that you have saved to your device, you can go ahead to photos right here and then just find your wallpapers album and you can select a wallpaper right here. So let's just say we wanted to select one of these wallpapers from my wallpaper pack. After you select it, you will see a whole new screen right here where you can customize this lock screen, and there is a ton of customization you can do right here. So if you tap up top, you can see these little borders that are outlined around all the different elements indicate what you can customize. So if you tap this, you will see different options for what you can customize right here. So you could choose a different widget up there. I personally like adding my alarm up there, just a quick and easy way to see when your next alarm is set for. If we tap on the time, we have all these different fonts to choose from and different colors as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and select something kind of funky so you can see that right there, and I can change the color as well. So I'll change it to that color, it kind of goes with the background. Then we also have add widgets. So if you tap on add widgets, you have multiple different widgets to add to the lock screen. So let's just go ahead and do weather. We'll add some batteries, and I get to choose which one I want to add. I'll add a small one, And let's add one big one as well. I like the big ones there. So we'll just do a calendar. So I don't have any events right now, but you can see that is what it looks like. You could also tap on these for more options. So that's really nice. A lot of customization here. And then from here, you also have different effects. So if you want to swipe over, you can see different effects that you could put on your wallpaper. Also, if you tap right here, you do have options to style the color and the depth effect. And once you tap on add, you will get this pop-up right here that says set as wallpaper pair or customize the home screen. Now, if you set it as a wallpaper pair, that will just simply set that wallpaper as your background on your home screen, and it will be blurred by default. Now, if you want to change that, just go into your settings, go to wallpaper. This whole section has been redesigned, by the way, and then just simply tap on customize on the home screen. And down here at the bottom, you can see you have the blur option. Just simply tap that if you want to unblur the image, or if you want to blur it to begin with. And you also have these options down here for color, gradient, and if you wanted to change to a different photo, you have the option to do that right there as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick with the original, unblurred, tap on done, and there we go. We now have that wallpaper on our home screen and on our lock screen. Now let's go back in here and I want to show you guys a couple more. So we have the weather and astronomy, which is pretty cool as well. So we have live weather. You can see it updates in real time based on your location, and it will show like rain and clouds and everything moving. It's really cool. We do also have the astronomy one. So right here we have the Earth. You can see a pretty cool effect, and you can see the time behind the Earth, which is just awesome. It looks really cool. You have different ones you could choose from as well, like with the moon detail, solar system. We also have photo shuffle, which is a really cool feature that allows you to change your wallpaper on an hourly, daily, on tap, or on lock basis. So I did make a whole video on this as well, but if you want to set up photo shuffle to have your wallpapers kind of shuffle around, you could add up to 50 wallpapers. You can do that right there as well, and they will change based on the frequency that you choose. Oh, and before we get out of this section, I did want to mention that if you go down to collections and go all the way over, we do have the clownfish wallpaper. It has made a reappearance here in iOS 16. This was the original iPhone's wallpaper, so it's pretty cool to see it here in higher quality, not the highest quality, but it is higher quality here in iOS 16. And if you see the two hidden behind the wallpaper, that's because we have the depth effect turned on. So you can see I have a picture of my cat right here, and if I tap on these three dots, we have the depth effect, and you can see his ear kind of goes in front of the 1 and 10 right there, and it looks really, really cool. Now, one thing you might notice after making a lot of wallpapers is that you kind of get a cluttered section right here. You kind of have too many wallpapers to choose from, so you might want to delete some. And to do that, it's very easy. Just simply swipe up on the wallpaper right there and tap on the delete button and delete this wallpaper just like that. Now, you might have also noticed that we have this little focus button on all of our lock screens when we're setting it up. So if you tap on that, you can see it says link focus. And what this allows you to do is that every time you go into a focus mode, it will link to that specific lock screen or home screen. So for example, if I select work for this specific lock screen and home screen combo, if I go to one of my other ones, let's just say we go to this one right here, so you can see we have a different wallpaper and everything. If we go into our work focus mode, which we just set up as linked to that lock screen and home screen, you can see that it automatically changes to that one. And I find this very useful, especially for the sleep focus mode. So every time I go to sleep, you could see I have this dark astronomy themed lock screen and home screen, which is easier on my eyes when I'm trying to go to sleep. So I would highly recommend toying around with linking focus modes to your lock screens. And when you're on a lock screen, you will see that the focus mode now shows up at the bottom of the lock screen instead of on top. So here's what it looked like on iOS 15. It showed up on top right under the date. Now it shows up at the very bottom of the lock screen. And if you tap on that, you will be able to turn that off or just select a different focus mode straight from there. And of course, to unlink that, we could either go to our notification center and haptic press and then tap on customize, or you could always go into your settings, wallpaper, and then tap customize right here. So we're gonna go ahead and unlink the focus mode from that because I don't want my wallpaper to keep on changing. There's also a big difference in the now playing platter on the lock screen. So you can see we no longer have a volume knob, and we also now have a new seeking little animation here. So when you press and hold, you can see it kind of gets bigger and we're able to seek through the song. We don't have to rely on this little ball right here like we did on iOS 15. Everything is also smaller and more compact. And also, if you tap on the album artwork, you can see it shows up big and it actually moves as well. So when you start playing the song, you will notice that the background animates with the dominant color of the album artwork. And you'll also see down here and the right hand side we have this little waveform playing when music is playing, which is a really cool little minor touch, but I really like that little animation there. And speaking of animations, when you play and pause, you can see we have a new animation there, along with when you skip or go forward. You can see a different animation there on iOS 16 that looks really clean. And to change it back, all you have to do is tap on the album artwork again, and it changes back to your regular wallpaper right there. Love this feature. iOS 16 also includes a new feature called Live Activities, which is a dedicated spot on the lock screen for music, for sports games, for your DoorDash order, for so many different things that will be implemented later on. But here is a live example of the timer using that Live Activities. It looks so cool. It looks so much better than it did on iOS 15, where it just showed up right under the time. So big difference in the timer look right there, and that is using the new Live Activities feature. Now about those notifications, you could swipe down right here to simply dismiss the notifications, but you could also change how they appear to begin with. So if you go into your settings, go to notifications, you will see that we have a whole new section up top that says display as. And from here you have count, stack, and list. So what you just saw was list. Here's what stack looks like. It kind of just stacks them just like that. And then we have count, which just shows a number at the bottom of the lock screen that indicates how many new notifications you have. And this is the cleanest look by far, but it's not very informative unless you swipe up and see the notifications, but it does give you a clean look. The notification center in landscape mode also looks much cleaner here in iOS 16 than it did in iOS 15. In the control center, we now have a more detailed permissions menu. So if you go to the control center, you can see you can now tap right there where you have these different icons where it shows camera, microphone, and location. And for weather, it shows, that it was using our location recently. Now, another cool thing about this is if you go into Safari and you access your location here, so we'll just search for, let's just say food near me. And if it uses your location, you can go into the control center and it now says Safari websites up top. And if you tap on that, it will show the specific domain that accessed your location recently. Pretty cool. Also in the control center, we have a new control center toggle for quick notes. So if you tap on that, it will start up a new quick note that is now on iOS 16, not just on iPad OS and the Mac. So if you go into your settings, go to control center, you will see that you have a new toggle down here for quick note that you can add. Also in the control center, you can see that we have a new little glyph icon up there in the top right that shows that we are playing our media on our AirPods. And if you tap on that, you can see we have the glyph icon there for AirPods as well. And speaking of AirPods, you can see that now on iOS 16, we have a whole new section specifically for our AirPods, and it shows up at the top when you have them connected. And if you tap on that, you get quite a few changes in here as well. So in iOS 15, to get to this menu, you had to go to your Bluetooth and then tap on the I on the AirPods and it would take you here. But now in iOS 16, it's its own standalone settings menu, and you can see that we have some visual images up top that shows the battery percentage for both the AirPods and the case. If we go down a little bit, you can see under Find My Network, we now have Show in Find My, and then we also have the accessibility shortcut right here to, instead of having to go into accessibility separately like we had to in iOS 15. But perhaps the biggest difference related to AirPods in iOS 16 is this right here, personalized spatial audio. So if you tap on personalized spatial audio and then personalized spatial audio right here, you can see it will take you to this menu that says you can use your iPhone camera to personalize spatial audio for the shape of your ears. And you can see it says position your face in front of the camera frame and then move your head in a circle to show all the angles of your face. So if you go through this, it will greatly improve the sound quality of your AirPods. Now you might have also noticed in the status bar, it now says SOS only. Sometimes it goes from no SIM to SOS only. You can see right there, it just did it, but we don't have the little dots before no SIM, and the SOS only is new in iOS 16 as well. Now speaking of the status bar, we also have a pretty big change to the battery percentage icon up there. So if you go to our settings and then go to the battery section up top, if your device is compatible, you can see that we have a battery percentage toggle. Now, if you turn that on, you can see that the battery percentage shows up inside of the battery on your status bar. Now, the only bad part about this is that it will show up as full regardless of what your battery percentage is until you get down to 20%, and then it will show that you have a lower amount of battery. Like the visual will change to show you that you have less battery. And if you turn on low power mode, you can see that the battery icon turns yellow and the text turns black. We also have some nice changes to Spotlight search. So now you can swipe down to invoke it, or we have a new little way to invoke Spotlight search now, and that is with this search button down here on the home screen. And if you swipe over, you can see it changes to the page dots, but once you sit still for a while, it switches back to search. Now you can turn that off if you go into your settings here and then go to home screen. You have this option here for search, show on home screen. If you turn that off, you can see that it does not show that anymore. You cannot invoke Spotlight search from the page dots, but I don't know, I like it. I think it looks cool, and it's just a quick and easy way to invoke Spotlight search. Even though this is pretty easy to do, it's just another way of doing that. But you will see that the UI is also much different here for Spotlight search. So now the search bar is down at the bottom. It's also bigger and more round than it was in iOS 15. And then the Spotlight search also expands into more applications now. So it can now scan for photos, not just in the Photos application, but also in Messages, Notes, and Files. So if I searched for cat, for example, and I went down to where it shows the pictures, you could see it says photos from apps. And now if I tap on show more, it will show that this came from Notes, this came from Photos. These different photos came from Photos, these came from Notes. And of course, if you had any in Files or Messages, those would also show up right here. And just for comparison, here's iOS 15. You can see when I search for cat, it only shows photos and text found in Photos. You'll also notice better rich results, especially for sports and movies and TV shows and things like that. Anything media related, you will notice much more rich results. So this is for sports, for example. You can see I just searched for Pirates, and you can see there's a big difference in the UI here as we go down. We have the roster there, about the team, social media, links, photos. There's just a lot more that you get when you search now in iOS 16 via Spotlight search. Now, if you start playing music and you go into your Spotlight search, you will notice that you get a suggestion here for the artist that is now playing. And if you tap on that, you will get more information about that artist. And I noticed that this pops up pretty frequently, like when you are in Maps, when you're in a YouTube video, whatever the case may be. I just found that there are much more relevant suggestions now and more smart suggestions in the Spotlight search. We can also now turn on a focus mode straight from the Spotlight search. So if you go to Spotlight search and you type in the name of one of your focus modes, you will see right here under Siri suggestions, it shows turn on sleep focus. And if you tap on that, it will turn it on without having to go into your settings. And you can do the same thing with shortcuts. You can run a shortcut straight from the Spotlight search, and we also have a new looking UI there. Now, if you've never paired an Apple Watch to your iPhone before, you will notice that you now have the fitness app. So this is now available for all iPhone users, not just iPhone users who have paired an Apple Watch to their device. And if you have the Siri suggestions widget added to your home screen, you will now see if you have a message or a missed call from one of your contacts, which can be very convenient and very handy if you didn't realize you had a missed call or message from that person. I've used this multiple times. I've seen that on the widget multiple times, and it has reminded me to get back to that person. Now let's move on to messages, because iOS 16 is going to change the way that you use messages from here on out. So I'm just going to simply type a text message to somebody right here, and you will notice in iOS 16, if you tap and hold on that message, you now have a couple of new options. So we can now undo send, and we can now edit that message. So if we tap on edit, you can see we get this little box right here where we can edit and say something else. I'll just say this and tap on the check mark, and you will see that you get a little edited button right underneath. Now, if you tap on that, both you and the recipient will be able to see the history of edits. Now, the thing you need to keep in mind here with edited messages is that you only have 15 minutes to edit that message. So after 15 minutes passes, you will no longer get the option to edit that message. Now, also, if you send that message to somebody on iOS 15 and you try to edit it, the other person will just receive a duplicate message that says this. I'm going to edit it one more time, add another O right there, and you can see all it says is edited to, and whatever you said. So they will just receive another text message or another iMessage that indicates what you edited on your device. Now, another new option in iOS 16 is undo send, but you will notice that it is no longer showing, and that's because you only have 2 minutes to unsend a message. So I'm going to go ahead and send another message just to show you guys how it works. So I'm going to type this out, and then I'm going to tap and hold on it, and you will see we have the option there for undo send. Now you can see on the iOS 15 device here, when I unsend a message, it will not change. It will still stay there for devices on iOS 15. So keep that in mind. You can only edit and unsend messages properly when the person that you're texting is also on iOS 16. So make sure all your friends go ahead and update. But when you do unsend a message, you will get this prompt right here. Both you and the recipient will get this prompt. Another very useful change in messages has to do with dictation in the text field. So if I start typing something out, I'm just going to type in typing, and then I press on the dictation button, I can pick up where I left off by just simply saying what I want to type, and I can even add in emojis. So I'm going to add in crying laughing emoji. So you can see there I can add emojis with my voice now in iOS 16, and I can pick up where I left off. So I can start typing now. Watch this. You can see I can go back and forth between this and dictation and adding emojis in there, which is pretty awesome. You'll also notice that you get this little pop-up right there as well in iOS 16 telling you that you can do what I just said. You'll also notice that to the right of the text field, it used to be the voice message button, but now in iOS 16, that has been replaced with the dictation button. So you have two different places to add dictation, so right there and right there. And the voice message is actually added to the app platter now. So with iOS 15, voice messages were a mess in my opinion. You'd have to tap and hold right here, and then you'd record your little voice message, and then you would send it. Let's just go ahead and send that right there, and you were not able to scrub through it. You had to play and listen to the whole thing from beginning to end. Well, that has gotten much better here with iOS 16. So now you have a whole new interface that's not near as confusing as it was in iOS 15, and you can either tap or hold to record. So if you tap it right here, you will see that this is the interface. You can see the little waveforms going right there. Press stop, and now you can listen to it back by pressing the play button. And if you go ahead and send it, you can actually scrub through it. So we're gonna tap on play, and you can see that you can scrub through this audio message. You also have more options in iOS 16 when you haptic press on one of those voice messages. So you could save it right there, and there is also a new icon for save, and you also have the option to copy now, of course, in addition to undo send. Tagging somebody in group chats has also gotten better in iOS 16, so now the contact photo shows up in the predictive text field when you start trying to tag somebody. So you can see here on the left on iOS 15, it didn't pop up, and it goes all the way until you type out the full name before it tags them. But here in iOS 16, you not only get the prediction early, but it also shows their contact image there in the predictive image or in the predictive text field. We also now get the ability to mark a message as unread. So if you swipe to the right on a message thread, you will get a new option here for marking it as unread. So if you tap right there, you will see that the badge shows up. It will also show up on your home screen, and now you will know that you have that message still unread. Now you can also haptic press, and you can see when you haptic press, you have either mark as read, or if you do it again, you will see that it shows mark as unread. So now you can do that in iOS 16. Now let's say I delete a conversation here. So we're going to delete this conversation and then go back, and now we will have a recently deleted folder. So this is new in iOS 16 as well. So if you go into recently deleted, you can see from here we have all of our recently deleted conversations and the ability to either delete all or recover all, or you can tap and do it individually. So we can recover this message from George Talk, from 30 days. We have 30 days to recover that. So we're going to press on recover message, and there we go. Now it shows back up in my messages. We also have this folder for unread messages, which I found to be very useful, especially when you can now mark messages as unread. It's nice to have its own little section there so you know which messages you need to respond to. And if you're running a dual SIM setup, you now have message filtering for each individual SIM card right here. And if you're messaging somebody on Android or just using SMS messages, you now have tapback, so you can react to SMS messages with a tapback. And you can see I reacted to that message right there, and he reacted to this one right there. So it now works not just with iMessage. You can also now share play via messages. So you no longer need to start a FaceTime call if you want to watch a movie together or listen to music together. So for example, I have music right here. If we tap on these three dots, you will see that we have share play right there. If we tap on that, you will see it pops up this menu right here where we have our suggested contacts, or we can add a contact. But most importantly, down here, you can see it shows messages and not just FaceTime. If you're a fan of Memojis, we now have more poses for contact pictures, these sticker poses. We do also have additional hairstyles, additional noses, headwear, lip colors, and more. And in the settings for messages, you will also notice that these little glyph icons under alerts have changed. So we have kind of a blue outline and they look a little bit more touched up and modern. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love sending screenshots in group chats, and they're not necessarily images I want to always have on my phone. And thankfully with iOS 16, that is possible. So now if we take a screenshot and we go into that screenshot and we tap on done, we have a new option here for copy and delete. So what this will do is it will copy the image to your clipboard and then it will delete it. That way it doesn't actually go into your camera roll and, clog up your device with a bunch of screenshots that you don't really want to be saved. So we tap on copy and delete and then go into a text message and just simply tap and paste. You can see it pastes in that screenshot right there and it's not saved to my camera roll. You may have also noticed that we now have saved to quick note there as well. So you can now save a screenshot very quickly to a quick note. And then if you tap on the share button right here, you now have the option to rename your screenshot. So instead of it just being, the date and time, you can rename the screenshot right from here. So if I just type in something random and hit submit, you can see that the image is now named whatever you name it there. Now, as for the Photos application, there are a lot of big changes. So let's start off with the shared library. So I'm going to go into settings to show you this first. So let's go to our settings and then we're going to go to the Photos section. And this is where you're going to add a participant if you want to share basically like a photo album with that person. So it could be your significant other, your son, your daughter, whoever you want to share this photo library with. This is where you can do it. So if you go to shared library suggestions, you have the option to turn that on or off. And then also sharing from camera. So what this means is if you go into your camera application, you will notice up in the top left-hand corner, you have a new toggle there. And that is for either taking the photo and uploading it to your personal library or your shared library. So of course, your personal library is just the library that is on your phone. But if you share a library with somebody else, that means that you're both going to see those photos at the same time. They're going to be deleted at the same time. It's basically like you're just sharing, an iCloud account essentially. But what's cool is that there is a toggle in here that I think is very useful, and that is share when at home. So it says when at home, always add photos and videos from camera to the shared library, even when other participants are not there. So that is a very specific feature that I think is pretty useful, especially if you don't want this being turned on all the time. And if I turn on a shared library, you can see that it's only going to show photos that are shared with the other person that I have shared library set up with. So I only have 3 photos right now. These are the only 3 I've shared with the other person that is in my shared library. And of course, if we turn that off and do both libraries, it will show all of our photos again. And if you wanted to quickly add a photo to a shared library that you already took, if you simply haptic press on that, you will get a new option down here for move to shared library. One of the most useful features in Photos is if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see under the utilities folder, we now have a new section for duplicates. And you can see I have 229 of the same image. So if I simply tap on that right there, it will show me all of the duplicate images I have, and I get the ability to merge them together, which means it's basically going to take the highest quality version and keep that one and then delete the lower quality version. And it is based on the size of the image here. So it'll show the size of the image and keep the one that has the highest size for the file. So we're going to tap on merge on this one right here, merge 2 items, and you can see there, boom, done, just like that. And you can also merge all at the same time. So if you tap on these that are on select right here, you have the option up top to select all. And then once you do that, you will see that you have the merge and it shows 227 down there at the bottom. I may as well go ahead and do that right now. So you can see this is a menu you might see as well. So you can merge only exact copies or just merge if there's different like file sizes or different qualities of them. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. I'm going to merge only the exact copies because I may have something specific in there that I don't want to be merged. So there we go, merge 18 items, and boom, done, just like that. Also down in the utility section, you will notice that we now have a lock next to the hidden and the recently deleted album. So now you need Face ID to look at your recently deleted or your hidden folders. Now, one of the coolest features in iOS 16 is a feature called Remove Subject. So what this does is it removes a subject from its background using just on-device intelligence. So take a look at this. So I have an image here of my cat, right? What if I wanted to just completely crop out the background, completely eliminate the background, and just have like a PNG image of my cat? Well, I can do that. All I have to do is simply tap and hold on the subject right there, and you can see a little outline is going around him right now, and we now have a new option up there for copy. If I tap on copy, now you could also tap right here and hold and drag, and you can see it working in real time, and I can drag this to a note, to a message, whatever I want to do. So I'm gonna go into messages right here, and I can drop this right on here, and you can see it drops the image that I just cropped out in real time. Here's another example. So you can see right there, I can take my car, and this one was actually pretty good besides the little piece of the sun right there, but such a cool feature. Live text is now available for videos in iOS 16. So on iOS 15, you were able to do live text and kind of extract the text from photos, but not videos. But now in iOS 16, you are able to do it from video. So if you pause, a video where you have some visible text, so you can see right here, there is some text on the Apple website. We have the live text button down in the bottom right. If you tap on that, it will show you everything that you can copy. And of course, it is all of the text on the screen. Now, also one thing you might notice here is that down at the bottom, it shows like exactly what is being picked up by live text. So it shows the website and also more right there. It shows all these different things that have been picked up by live text. Now, another thing I really like in iOS 16 is that live text is not invoked via double tapping. So before in iOS 15, when I would try to zoom in on a photo, I would like double tap like that and it would select the text and it would always annoy the crap out of me. But that does not work anymore in iOS 16. You now have to tap and hold to select the text. You can no longer double tap to select text anywhere. And if you don't know what I mean, here's an example. If I try to zoom in right there, it just selects that text. And like I said, now on iOS 16, that does not happen anymore. And something that goes along with live text is the ability to translate not only text now, but you can now translate metrics, time, and so many other things. So all you have to do is, this can be in text or in photos. So you can see right here, we have 1,000 kilometers. If you tap and hold on that, it will show the conversions right there. And the same with the time. So 10 a.m. Pacific time, if I tap and hold on that, you can see, or if I just actually tap on that right here, you can see that it shows the time that is in my current time zone. So I'm in New York time zone and it shows the conversion right there. If we tap on the 10 kg, it will show all the conversions right here with the ability to copy any of them. We can do 100 pounds right there and it will convert that as well. And then $9.99, it will convert that to my local currency, which is $10.04. And it uses Yahoo as the source for that. And you can also copy that. So that is awesome. And it's also super useful when you use it in photos, especially if you're in another country and you're taking pictures of signs, you're able to convert everything in real time now. You can now also search for text in the Photos application. So you can see here on the left on iOS 15, when I search for Tesla, only one item comes up because I labeled that one as Tesla. But with iOS 16, you can see that we have a ton of images, and that's because it picked up on the text of Tesla somewhere in that photo. And that is indicated by the little live text icon in the bottom right hand corner of all of those images. And it also shows it right here, text found in photos. And if you tap on that, it will show you all the photos where it found the text that matches your criteria. And then we also have the captions right here, which of course you can caption any photo to whatever you want. But the ability to search for text in photos now is extremely useful. I found myself using this multiple times. And if you go into a photo, you will notice that up in the top right hand corner, we now have the 3 dots next to edit. It was nothing before. And if you tap on those 3 dots, you have all these different options right here. Now let's say we wanted to edit this photo. So we go ahead to this right here. We'll just go right here. We're gonna do an auto We're going to press on exposure, change the exposure a little bit, and we're going to do the same thing here on iOS 16. And you will notice up in the top left-hand corner of iOS 16, we now have an undo button. So we can now undo effects and redo effects instead of just having to start over from scratch. So that is a nice option to have if you are into photo editing. So if you go back, you can see it even shows exactly what was undone or redone right there. Now let's say that we were editing a photo and we got the perfect edit and we want to be able to copy that edit, the same, adjustments onto another image. Well, we can do that now. So if you go up to the three dots right here and you go to copy edits, that is a new option. And we go to another photo, you can go to the three dots right there and we now have the option to paste edits. So you can see it will auto apply and it will prepare the photo and you now have the same edits, and you can do that for multiple photos. You could also do it from this view right here. So if you haptic press on that, you have the option to paste edits from the grid view as well. Also, when you go to a photo and you go to edit right here and you go to crop, we have a new option for crop. So if you go up to the top right where we have all the squares right there, if you tap on that, we have a new option down here for wallpaper crop. So you can now crop an image to perfectly fit the wallpaper size for your device. And this is nice because it saves you from having to use Photoshop or just make your image look really, stretched out on your home screen or lock screen. There's a new glyph image there for an empty album. So that's what it looked like on iOS 15. Here's what it looks like on iOS 16. Pretty small change, but it is something that's changed. You could also change the sorting of the people and places album right here. So if you go into that, you will see all of the people that your phone has detected. And up in the top right in iOS 16, you now get the option to change the sorting. And when you tap on the sorting icon in the top right, you get the option to do a custom order or by name, and it will put them in alphabetical order. And you can just simply tap and hold on a person and move their face over and just change the order of your people here. And if you're into memories, this update also adds some new styles and some good new songs down here and everything. The whole UI is better now with this update for memories. You also have all these different looks right here. And then also the music will keep playing when you tap to restart the memory. There's also a new toggle in your photos settings. So it says allow featured photos and memories to automatically appear on this device in places such as For You and search in photos and in widgets. So I personally don't like all that just because I'm on camera a lot with my phone. So I like to turn this off, but that will eliminate your memories and your featured photos from showing up in the Photos application and other places on your device. But that's a new toggle in iOS 16. Now in the camera application, I showed you guys the shared library toggle up there in the top left, but we also have some other changes as well. And one of my favorite ones is real-time translation. So if I had something in another language right here, I'm able to translate this text in real time. So if I tap on the live text button in the bottom right-hand corner, and then you could see what pops up right there in the bottom left is translate. When I tap on that, it shows in real time the translation for whatever I'm looking at without having to actually take a photo. If you have a device that supports cinematic mode, that has been improved here with iOS 16 pretty dramatically. I noticed a pretty big change in cinematic mode. It looks a lot better and a lot less fake in my opinion. Now, another thing that's changed is the ability to change the foreground blur in portrait photos. So here is a portrait photo and you're able to tap on the foreground right here to pull focus to the foreground instead of the background and vice versa. Visual lookup can now recognize birds, insects, spiders, and statues. So we have a bird right here and you can see down at the bottom where we have the little eye, we have these sparkles there on iOS 16, which indicates visual lookup. We have the same image here on iOS 15 and you can see it does not have that. So we have the lookup right there for bird. And if we tap on that, it will show the results and show what type of bird that is. It identifies it. And then also we have the statue right here and you can see it does identify the statue as well. And here is another one. If we tap on that, it shows that it is a landmark. And if you tap on that, it will show you the results for which statue that is. And if you haptic press on the camera icon on your home screen, you will notice that we have new glyph icons for Take Portrait and Take Portrait Selfie. FaceTime gets some decent changes as well. So first off, you're now able to hand off a FaceTime call to another device. So if you're on a FaceTime call on your Mac, you're able to transfer that over to your phone without actually, having to call back or losing the call. You're able to transfer it to another device. So you could do that from your iPhone if you just got home and you want to transfer the call to to your computer, you can now do that. And if you go into your settings for FaceTime, you will see that we have a new toggle here for live captions. Now this is currently still in beta, but it says your iPhone will use on-device intelligence to automatically display captions in FaceTime. And I have used this and I found it to be pretty accurate. I don't need it, but I think as an accessibility feature, it is pretty cool to have live captions for FaceTime. And you can also now share play from the share sheet. So if you wanted to share play a video or music or whatever, you can now do that from the share sheet. We also have a new feature called Continuity Camera that allows you to use your iPhone as your Mac's webcam. So if you're on macOS Ventura or later, you're able to use your iOS 16 device as the webcam and also as the audio source. All you need to do is simply lock your device and then it's going to use your rear-facing camera as the webcam for your Mac. Now moving on to Safari, we can now pin tabs. So if we have something that we like right here and want to pin a tab, we can simply tap and hold on that tab. And now we get a new option here in the haptic menu for pin tab. And when you do that and you go all the way up to the top, you will see your pinned tabs up top, just like you can do on Safari on the Mac. And now when you create a tab group, you can see that the text is up in the top left in bold instead of just being down here at the bottom. And that was the only place you really saw the name of that tab group. You also now have the option to share a tab group. So you have a share sheet right here. If you tap on that, you're now able to share this in messages or other applications. And it even shows right there collaboration. So other people can add to this tab group as well. And if you go into your Safari settings, you can see we do have a different glyph icon there for tab bar and a single tab, but we also have a new section here for settings for websites, and it says share across devices. So this will share your settings obviously across all of your devices. So if you have certain settings set up on one device and you want it to share across your Mac, your iPad, everything else, you would turn that on. Now you can also do this for extensions. So if you go up a little bit to where you have your extensions, so let's go to extensions right here, you have the option down here as well for share across devices. So if you have ad block on one device and you want it to be on all devices, you would just simply turn this on. Now you could also see right here, we have a section that says on other devices, and it gives you the option to download a extension that was on another device but not currently on this one. Safari now supports translating text and images using live text. So you can see I have an image right here pulled up from Google, and I could go ahead and select the text in the Spanish sign, and I'm able to translate that in real time by simply tapping right there, and it tells me what it is. Now we can also do the pull from background or the lift subject from background in Safari. So I can pull, that's not really a good one to do. So let's go ahead and find like another cat image or something like that. Let's go over here. So from a Safari image here, we're going to go ahead and select this photo right there. And you can see we get the option to now copy subject. So we tap on copy subject right there and we go into our notes. We're going to go ahead and paste that cat right there. And you can see it didn't completely eliminate the background, but it did a pretty good job. And I could probably do the rest with Photoshop. So you could do that straight from Safari as well. It doesn't have to be actually downloaded to your phone. iOS 16 also introduces a new video player. So you can see before it just had all of the black bars and it wasn't very clean or modern looking, but now with iOS 16, it is so much better. So you can see everything is kind of similar to what we have on the lock screen. Now you also have gestures, so you can kind of swipe anywhere on the screen to go forwards and backwards. You don't have to be down here on the actual scrubber. So really cool, very convenient. You also have the 10 seconds ahead, 10 seconds behind right there as well. But this new video player I think is way better than iOS 15. Now in iOS 16, when you get your device to create a strong password for you when you sign up for a website, you now have other options. So you don't have to use the strong password that they recommend. If you tap on other options, you have choose my own password, edit strong password, no special characters, and easy to type. So you now have different options to choose. And speaking of passwords, a big new feature in iOS 16 is passkeys. So passkeys are a more secure way to basically manage passwords on your device. So they never leave your device. The passkeys never leave your device and are specific to the site that you created them on, making it almost impossible for them to be phished. And you're also able to sign in on other devices by scanning a QR code for passkey. So here is an example, a demo website of this in action, and it will be rolling out to a lot of other sites over time. So we're going to go ahead and tap on sign in, and you can see right here we get the option to use iPhone, iPad, or Android device or security key to log in. So I'm going to use my iPhone. We're going to tap on continue, and then we're going to scan that QR code with the device running iOS 16 or later to log in to our account. Now moving on to the music application, you'll notice throughout the music app in iOS 16 that we now have these arrows next to every section instead of the see all. So before there was that red see all button over there on the right hand side, but now everything looks a little bit cleaner and more cohesive with the little arrow right there. They both do the same thing, but it just looks cleaner now in iOS 16. And when you go to an album or a single, you will notice that the information like the lossless audio and the Apple Digital Master, all of that is now up top underneath of the artist's name instead of being down below a little bit lower on iOS 15. And now if you go to an artist, you have a new little star button up in the top right for that artist's page. And when you select that, it's going to give you notifications for when that artist releases new music. So you can now favorite your favorite artists. I've also noticed that when you favorite artists, it gives you better recommendations of artists that are similar to that one. If you wanted to queue a song in iOS 15, you had to tap and hold and then tap on play next. But now in iOS 16, you're able to simply drag that song, take and drag, tap and hold and drag, and pull it down to the now playing platter. And there you go. It shows playing next. That is a simple way to add a song to the queue. And if we head into our playlist right here and we go into this playlist, if you tap on the three dots, you can see you can now finally sort playlists by playlist order, title, artist, album, and most importantly, by release date. So that is long overdue. You can now sort any playlist that you create. On the now playing screen, you can see everything looks just much cleaner in iOS 16. We don't have these like balls attached to the volume rocker right here, and also the seek forward and seek backwards. It is just very simple now, and we have this animation where it kind of comes out right there. And you can press anywhere on this as well to fast forward, whereas before you could not do that on iOS 15. You can do the same with the volume. You can pull right here and start moving the audio, whereas you could not do that on iOS 15. And if you go into the queue right here, you will notice that before it would show the part of the song you're on, it would still show that right there, but in iOS 16, that is no longer there. And I think it actually looks cleaner and less confusing this way. If you use the music recognition toggle in the control center, or if you ask Siri, what song is playing, all of those songs that are identified with those features will now be synced with the Shazam application if you have it installed on your device. Oh, and I've also noticed that AirPlay and handoff, like if you hand off music to your HomePod, it is greatly improved in iOS 16. iOS 15 was just an absolute nightmare for handing off to a HomePod, but I can thankfully say iOS 16 improves this greatly. Now heading into the podcast application, if we go to the library right here, you can see that before, if we went into shows, before it would show followed and all, but that is no longer here in iOS 16. It just shows all of our shows right here. If you tap on the three dots up in the top right hand corner, it now says follow a show by URL instead of add a show by URL. And if you go into the now playing screen for podcasts, we have some nice changes here. So before on iOS 15, to change the speed of the podcast, you would have to tap multiple times and you just kind of had to keep tapping until you got to where you wanted. But now in iOS 16, if you tap that, you have a little pop-up menu here where it's easy to select the speed that you want to go at. And also before on iOS 15, you had to scroll down a little bit to get to your sleep timer and it was right there. But now on iOS 16, it's always visible down here in the bottom right hand corner. And that is also a new glyph for the sleep timer as well. You'll also notice that the duration bar is above all of the text on iOS 15, but on iOS 16, it is below the title and episode name. We do also have the date there in iOS 16, whereas that never showed on the now playing screen before. And we do also have these three dots right here as well, instead of being in the bottom right hand corner. And all of the settings are the same, but you could see that the pop-up is different as well. It's not as clunky and big as it was in iOS 15. In the Maps application, we now have the ability to add stops and also change the order of the stops before we get started navigating. So if you go ahead to the add stop button right here, you could add in whatever you want. So I'm just going to add Chick-fil-A. There we go. So you can see I'm going to go to Wawa, then Orlando, then Chick-fil-A, and it shows the total time right there. You also have the ability to change this from drive to walk, transit, cycle, or rideshare. And this whole UI here looks a little bit better than it did on iOS 15, like avoiding tolls and highways. You can see it's easier to access that, along with scheduling your trip. You could do it right here as well from the same menu. If you use public transportation, you can now see the transit fares before you begin navigation. Also, if you go to a national park in the Maps application, you will now see a very faint green outline around all of the land that belongs to that specific national park. You'll also notice that the topography on the map just looks better in iOS 16. I don't know about you guys, but I use the Notes application all the time, and I love the new features included with iOS 16. Now, I did make a whole video specifically on the Notes features in iOS 16, so if you want to see that, I will leave it linked above and down in the description below. But the first thing is that we have a new Create New Folder screen. So if we go down here to the bottom left where you can see our folders, if we tap on that, you can see that we have a new screen here for new folder. Before it was just simply this little pop-up right here, but now we have a whole menu section for creating a new folder and naming it. And you also now get the option to make it into a smart folder straight from when you create it. Now, if you go into that, you will notice that the filters, now it says include notes matching either all or any of the filters that you have selected right here. So you can change the filters from tags, date created, all of these right here. But the big thing is that we now have the option to do this to match any of the filters and not just all of them. And also you'll notice that these smart folders on iOS 15, the only thing you could do is basically just select tags and that was it. But now you can have certain filters and criteria for all of these different things right there. So just a lot more that you can do with filtering in iOS 16. And if you go into one of the folders, you will see that the layout is much better and much easier on the eyes, much easier to read. So it shows previous 7 days, previous 30 days, June. It kind of breaks it down by the date and separates the notes apart. And if you tap on these three dots up in the top right hand corner, you can see we have this new pop out versus this one that came up from the bottom in iOS 15. It looks so much better. This looks very outdated on iOS 15. And we also have this new option for group by date. So if you do that, you can see you could turn off the better layouts if you wanted to, which I don't know why you would. I think it makes it much easier to read, but you can turn that off if you would like to go back to the classic style. And then we also have this share button up here in the top right hand corner, which was not there in iOS 15. And when you tap on this, you will see that we have this new option here to collaborate, and you can have a drop down there to either send a copy or collaborate. So collaboration is awesome in Notes now because you can collaborate with anybody who has the link. You don't have to invite them anymore. You could just send them a link. And if you go back to your folders, you will see right here under quick notes, we have shared. So these are all of my shared notes. If I go in right here, you could see this is the layout. And if we tap on this little person up in the top right, you can see we get all of these new options here. So show updates, it will show you everything that has been changed to the note and who made those changes at what time. You have show all activity, show highlights, and you could also manage the shared notes. So if I go to show all activity, it will show when the edits were made and what the edits were that were made. So if you scroll down right there, you can see that. And if we tap right here, and if we go to show highlights, it will highlight the things that have changed. So you can see right there, it shows Brandon in red and it shows what I added versus what he added in yellow. And the cool thing about this is that you could actually start a message, FaceTime audio call, or FaceTime video call straight from the Notes application. If you go into a note and tap on the three dots and go to find in note, you will notice that with the magnifying glass, we now have a drop down where we have multiple different options. So before it was just to find, a word or a sentence or whatever you searched for, but now we can find and replace. So for example, if I type in, let's go ahead and do find and replace, and we're going to find, let's just say features. So it's going to select features right there, and I want to replace that with LOL, just for example. And so now you can see anytime that shows up, 1 out of 1, it will replace it. And if I tap on replace, there we go, done just like that. I don't know how often you're actually going to use that, but it could be very beneficial if you have a very extensive note. And then of course you do also have whole words and match case, so you can filter that even more to find what you're looking for. If we tap on the pen icon right here, you will notice down in the bottom right hand corner, we now have the plus next to the color wheel. So when we do that, we can add text, signature, or add shape very easily straight from this menu. And then definitely Definitely one of the best features in iOS 16 is that now when you lock a note, so we're going to go ahead and lock that note. We're going to put in our Face ID, and you will notice that it didn't ask me for a password, and that's because now your iPhone is the password for locked notes. Now you can change that if you want to. If you go into your settings right here and then go down to notes, we have the password section right here. If you go into password, you have the option now to choose between using your device passcode or custom password. So I would recommend doing the device passcode just to make it easier so you don't have to remember a bunch of different passwords, or just a separate password from your device passcode. But now you get that option, and you also get the option to use Face ID. Reminders also gets a big overhaul with iOS 16, and just like with notes, I did also make a separate video specifically on reminders and everything you could do with it in iOS 16, and also just some hidden tips. So I will leave that video linked in the description below. But reminders has some new things in here as well. So you'll notice that YouTube videos is up top now in iOS 16, whereas in iOS 15, I was not able to do anything to move that up top. And that is because now we can pin certain reminders or certain folders. So you can see there, if I haptic press on this test folder, I can pin that and it will now put it up top with everything else. You do have a max of 9 lists that are allowed to be pinned. So I'm almost at my limit right here, but you can pin up to 9 lists up top now. They're your most important ones. We also now have a default completed tasks folder. So if you go into that, it will automatically show all of your completed tasks that have not been cleared. Up in the top right corner, we now have these 3 dots instead of an edit button. And that's because we have a new option up there for templates. So you can see right there, we have templates, and that is a big new addition to reminders in iOS 16. And templates are exactly what it sounds like. It just creates a new folder with all of these reminders inside. So for example, if I wanted YouTube videos, if I wanted another folder, another reminders list of all of these different reminders and all these tags and due dates and everything. If I wanted to create another one just like that, I would create a template out of YouTube videos and name it something else, like YouTube videos 2, for example. And now when I go to YouTube videos 2, you can see it has all of those reminders in it right there. And if you want to create a template, just go into one of your existing lists, tap on the 3 dots in the top right, and you'll see that we have a new option there for save as template, and you can create a name for that template. If we go into the today view right here, you will see that this is laid out much better. So now it shows morning, afternoon, and tonight. So you can now see a list of your day in a much easier to digest way, where it breaks it down between the morning, afternoon, and night. Now you'll also notice that throughout every single folder here, every single list and reminder. So for example, if I go to, let's find one with everything on here. So if we go to scheduled, you can see it shows the date right there as well. And it also shows today, tomorrow, rest of September, and all of the different months right there. So it just lays out better here in iOS 16. Everything is easier to read in reminders. We also have support for rich text now. So you can see right here, I have some rich text inside of one of these reminders. So you can't create it in reminders, but you can paste in rich text from like the notes application. If you have a bullet list, or if you have, a numbered list, you could add that into a reminders notes now. If you go to create a new reminder, you can see that we now have the add note underneath. So you can now add a note without needing to tap on the I to add in a note. So you can do that easier. And then when you tap on the I, you will also notice that the list view right here, or the priority view, is better. So in priority on iOS 15, it opened up this whole new window, but now it's just the simple little drop-down menu. Now, if you're in a list that has already been saved as a template, you will see these little window icons in the top right-hand corner. If you tap on that, you will have the templates that you already have saved. Now, if you tap on the I right here, we have a new option to share that template. So if you wanted to share this with somebody, you can do that. And you could also choose what you want to include. So if you want to include the tags and the date and time, or neither, you can do that right here. You also have the option down here to show preview, to show what it will look like when they, kind of import this to their reminders application. If we go to continue right here, you will get the option to share it with somebody via iCloud link, messages, mail, whatever you want. It will also show when it was shared, and if you want to stop sharing it, you can go to manage link and stop sharing. And also in these shared lists, you will now get notifications when tasks are added or completed. We now get a notification badge when a task is due today. So before we did not get that, but if we go into our settings and go to the reminder section right here and go down, you will see that we have a new toggle for include due today. So it says include both overdue and due today items in the badge count. So if you have notifications turned on for your reminders, you will now see an additional one or however many for due today. If we create a new smart list in iOS 16, you can see the layout here is much better. We also have some additional filters, so we can now filter by lists right here. And we also have the option to include reminders matching any or all of the selected filters, whereas before it had to match all of the criteria to show up in that smart list. So just like notes, you now have more filtering options. Moving on to the calendar application, we now have a new landscape UI. So if you flip your phone in landscape mode, you will see this is the new UI for the calendar application. I think it's much better. You see much more information than what we saw on iOS 15. As you can see right here, basically it was just like a more zoomed in calendar on iOS 15, but now on 16 it shows the full calendar on the left along with a whole section over here on the right for your events, and you can also filter by day, week, month, or year. You could change the view right there along with all of your other settings that you normally can see when in portrait mode. And if you have an event in your calendar and you tap and hold on that, you can see now in iOS 16 you get some options when you tap and hold. So you can see we have cut, copy, paste, duplicate, and delete. So all of those are new options here and all are very useful. So you could also copy and paste these, as you could tell from the menu there. So if I wanted to paste that same event, let's just say next week, I could do that. So I could tap and hold right there. And then from this drop down, you can see you can paste it and it actually shows exactly what it is, and it came from the clipboard. So there you go. It'll set it up with the same parameters as the other one. And when you go to create a new event, you can see we have some changes in here as well. So travel time, when you tapped on that before, it would take you to a whole new window. Now it's just a simple drop down menu, and it's the same with everything else in here. So repeat, calendar, alert, show as, all of those are drop down menus now versus being full on windows. So everything can be changed quicker and from the same screen now in iOS 16. And you'll also notice that everything is spaced out a little bit more, so it's easier to digest. Like alert and show as are now separated, and there just seems to be more room throughout. Repeat has its own section now instead of being up here, so everything just looks better when you go to create a new event. The mail application also gets some nice new features in iOS 16. So if you go ahead and compose a new email and you tap and hold on the send button right here, you can see you now have scheduled sends. So you can send now, you can send at 9 p.m. tonight, 8 a.m. tomorrow, or at your own specific time. So you pull up this calendar right here and you could choose the date and time that you want to send that email. But let's say that we send this email on accident and we wanted to, schedule it instead of send it right now. We do also have the undo send button down here. So you could tap on that and it will undo that message and it will bring you back to what you had typed out. Now there's also a setting for that. So if you go into your settings and then go to mail, all the way down here at the bottom, we have a new section that says undo send delay, and you have the option to choose if you want that off, if it's going to be 10 seconds, 20 seconds, or 30 seconds before the message actually sends. So what this does is obviously it just delays the message from sending, just in case you maybe didn't mean to send it or you forgot to add something. You will have some time to undo that before it goes out. There's also a new remind me later feature. So if you swipe to the right on a message, you will see that we have a new feature here called Remind Me. So if you tap on that, you can see you get the option to remind yourself in an hour, tonight, tomorrow, or at a specific time and date to remind you when you should reply to this email. So if you don't want to reply right away, but you know you need to, it's great to remind yourself to do that. So we're going to say remind me in 1 hour, and you will see to the right of the message there under the time, we have a little clock icon that indicates that is going to be a remind me message. You're going to be reminded about that message in an hour or whatever time you set. And then if you go back to the first page in the mail application, you have the remind me folder now under mailboxes, and this will show you all of the messages that you want it to be reminded of. And when you tap on the email, you will see right underneath it shows that mail will remind you at a specific time. And you could also change that later on by simply tapping on the edit button. And when you go back, when you go out of here, if you wanted to clear that, you have the option now to clear the remind me badge and notification. So you could either go like this and then tap on clear, or you could swipe all the way over to clear it. Rich links have also been added. So if you add in a website or a tweet or whatever, it will show you a preview of that link, so you can see it shows more details and more context of the link. And if it's not actually showing up, you can press right here and you will see a little arrow down on the link. If you tap on that, you could do show link preview, and then from here it will convert that into a rich link. There's also a new feature that's very similar to Gmail, and that is the follow-up feature. So this is going to move a sent message to the top of your inbox if you sent an email with a question and the other person did not respond back to you yet. There's also BIMI support, which stands for Brand Indicators for Message Identification, and this allows you to easily identify a legit email from the actual company that it says is sending you that email. You'll also now see suggestions and a history of things that you've typed in to search in Mail. The weather application also gets a lot of improvements here with iOS 16. So first off, just from first glance, it looks about the same. You will notice that the temperatures and the precipitation and everything is a little bit off, and I found it to be more accurate in iOS 16 than it was in iOS 15. But if you scroll down a little bit to where you have the 10-day forecast, you can actually now tap on that to get more information about pretty much everything. So you can see right here, it shows like a graph and it shows the time, and this is for the temperature, but you could also change that to be showing the UV index, wind, rainfall feels like. You can change all of this right here, and it shows it in this cool little graph right here. You could also go over it right here and see, what it's showing, what the data is showing. And you also have for precipitation down below, it shows what type of precipitation, rain, sleet, mixed, or snow, and it is color coordinated right there. And you can navigate to the next day and see that same information as well, along with that daily summary down there at the bottom. So that is super cool. I love that. And then also when you scroll down, you have your air quality, you have your precipitation map, but when you have all these little widgets right here, all these different things that show the rainfall, humidity, feels like, all of that, you could tap on any of them to see more information. So rainfall right there, wind, you could tap on that. You could tap on everything to see different graphs and just much more in-depth information about the data. So visibility, all of that can be just tapped on to see more information. And then down where it says air quality, before we had a little see more button, and when you tapped on that, it showed you more information about air quality, but iOS 16 takes that even further. And now when you tap on it, it shows you a full map of the air quality along with all of that information. And the radar has also been improved, so now you can see the next hour and the 12-hour forecast regardless of how much you're zoomed in to a location. Also, the animations and the whole look is just much better here in iOS 16. And then speaking of weather, if you go to the three dots up here on the top right and then go to notifications, you will notice that we have a new section up top right here for severe weather and next hour precipitation notifications. So now you will get notifications, push notifications, when precipitation is in the radar or is in the forecast for the next hour, along with any severe weather notifications. Now you do need to have your location access set to always for this to work, but when you do that, you can see you could turn these toggles on and you will get a little splash screen there telling you that it is going to be turned on and you will be receiving notifications for that. Oh, and by the way, while we're in this section, you can also now add 50 different locations instead of 20. So on iOS 15, you could only add 20 different cities. Now on iOS 16, you could add up to 50 locations. And then I showed this earlier, but if you're a big weather nerd, you might like to have the weather on your lock screen. So you can see here it live animates based on the weather conditions, and it also pre-adds in some different widgets here related to the weather. So it's pretty cool, especially when it rains. It has a cool little animation here on the lock screen and notification center. Oh, and one final small thing in the weather application, we used to have the little weather icon logo right there along with another one, but those are not there in iOS 16. So it looks a little bit cleaner. Now moving on to the wallet application, we have a few changes here as well. So number one, if you order something that is being shipped to you, you could see your shipping information when you tap on that item. Now I'm not seeing this for anything right now, but that will be rolled out in the future. Also, when you tap on the dots up in the top right corner, it takes you to that pop-out menu instead of opening up a whole new window here like you could see on iOS 15. We also have a daily cache button and a notifications button, whereas we did not have those in iOS 15. So it's easy to access your daily cache right there. It will show you this menu right here, the lifetime amount that you've received and the percentages, along with some other information down here. And then for notifications, if we go to notifications, that just takes you to transactions and where you can allow notifications for the wallet application. And switching over to Apple Pay Cash, we have a few changes here as well. So before there were two separate buttons for request and send. Now it's just one black button right there. And the balance is now in line with that instead of being up in the top right on the Apple Pay Cash card. And then down here for latest transactions, you can see we have this little filter button right here that allows you to filter between daily cash, sent to received, and purchases. And if you tap on the three dots up in the top right hand corner, we have new options here as well. So we can add money, transfer to bank, and we could also see our card number, card details, and a shortcut to notifications. Now, another feature that I've not been able to test yet is key sharing. So this allows you to send hotel keys, car keys, or any other type of digital key that's supported to another person via iMessage. And then we also have Apple Pay Later. So when you check out with Apple Pay, you can now split your Apple Pay purchase into 4 equal payments over 6 weeks. Now, something else that's really cool in iOS 16 is that you can verify your identity in applications if you have your ID added to the wallet application. So I don't have that added yet. My state is not allowing that just yet. But it says customers in the US will be able to share their verified information from their ID card and wallet within apps that require age or identity verification. And we have some additional Apple Pay features here as well. Like we have Apple Pay merchant tokens that let you securely set up and complete pre-authorized or recurring Apple Pay payments. You could also pay multiple merchants in a single Apple Pay transaction. We have a quick access menu that lets users access many back of pass features with a single tap, and top up Apple Card. So you can now replenish your Apple Card in the wallet application with a simple tap of a button. The home application gets a major overhaul in iOS 16. So you can see the vast redesign just from this screen right here. So everything really looks different. So number one, we have new wallpapers. So if we go ahead to these three dots up in the top right hand corner, which by the way, that kind of replaces the confusing way to get to settings in iOS 15. So in iOS 15, you'd have to go to the home and then go to home settings. So it's pretty confusing for some people who didn't always use this application. But now when you tap on those three dots, you have all these different options here for home settings, edit home view, reorder sections. But one of my favorite things about this home screen is that if you tap and hold on one of these HomeKit devices, you have the option to edit home view. And when you do that and tap again, you have this little option that comes up right here to resize. So if you tap on that, it can make the icon, the little platter there, look bigger, or you can make it be smaller. And you can do that for any of these as long as you're in jiggle mode and you simply just tap on it right there. Now, also, if you go to the three dots right here, we have the reorder sections button. So now if you go to reorder sections, you're able to change what shows up at the top, in the middle, and the bottom. So if I wanted my master bathroom to be the very top one, I could do that now and tap on done. And now it shows up right there up at the top. And when you tap on that, it will show you all the things in your master bathroom. And if you want to get to the settings of a specific device easily, all you have to do is go to accessory details right here. And then all of your settings are down here, just like they were in iOS 15. We also have multiple new wallpapers. So if you go to choose existing down here for the home wallpaper, you will see up top that we have quite a few new ones right here. So all of these are new in iOS 16, and they look better, I think, than they did in iOS 15, which are kind of just plain and vague. And I don't have a ton of things set up in my home application, but you will also notice once you start to add more things to your home application that there are a lot of changes to the device icons. So if you have like a doorbell or a thermostat or something like that, the glyph icons are also refined here in iOS 16. And also on the lock screen, we have home widget. So from here, you can see you can add a summary, the climate sensor, we have security accessory, and lights. So we could add all of those to have quick access from our lock screen. But perhaps the biggest change coming to the home application is Matter support. And if you don't know what Matter is, it is the new smart home connectivity standard that's going to enable compatible accessories to work together seamlessly across all platforms. So if you had like a Google product and then an Amazon product and then an Apple product, they would always kind of just not work before. They'd have their own specific setup and their own specific app for everything. But now with Matter, everything's going to be able to work together. So you're going to be able to add all of those into the home application. There's also some changes to Siri. So now if you wanted to send a text message via Siri, you can skip the confirmation step and just automatically send the message after you finish. So watch this. Send a message to George Talk saying hello. And you can see right there, it has a countdown for before it sends, and it will send it automatically without me needing to say, send, or tapping on anything to say send. Another thing you're going to notice throughout iOS 16, especially when using Siri or just dictation in general, is that there is now automatic punctuation. So the iPhone iOS 16 will now intelligently add commas, periods, question marks wherever appropriate. So that is nice. I've noticed a huge difference in that. And now everything doesn't look like a run-on sentence that I send when I just tell Siri to send a message. I tell Siri what I want to say. It actually adds in the commas and periods for me without having to say comma or period. Another cool feature is inside of our settings for Siri and search. You can see right here we have call hang up. So you can tell Siri to hang up during a phone call and it will hang up without you pressing a button. I've tried this multiple times and it works pretty well, especially when you're on speakerphone and you're not really near your phone and you want to hang up. This is a really great way to do that. Something else you can do in iOS 16 is that you can ask Siri what to do while you're in a certain application or while you're doing something specific. So I'll try it in the shortcuts application, for example. What can I do in here? And you can see Siri will tell us what we can do while in this application. Siri also has expanded offline support, so you're now able to do more things. You can ask more of Siri without needing to be connected to the internet. There's also a new animation when you ask Siri what's playing. What song is this? You can see there that is a new animation for Shazam up top. And the music player has also changed when you ask Siri what song is playing, more so to represent what is shown on the lock screen and home screen. In the shortcuts application, we can now change the view. So if we tap up top on those little squares, we could change it from a grid view to a list view. And I actually find myself really liking the way this looks in the shortcuts app. So you can now see all of your shortcuts kind of in an easier to read manner. And up in the top right, it used to say select, but now it says edit. So when you tap on edit, you can select the ones that you want to edit. So just a minor change in the verbiage there. And then also when you go to add a new shortcut, so if you tap on the plus up in the top right hand corner, and let's tap on plus over here on the left on iOS 15, you could already see some pretty big differences. So up top, we have new shortcut instead of it showing right there, along with the icon. And then if you tap on the drop down, right here up at top, you have rename, choose icon, duplicate, add to home screen, export, all of those options right there. Whereas before on iOS 15, to get to those options, you had to tap on this little menu right here and it showed it in a whole separate page. And then also down at the bottom, we have this little eye right there, which takes us to this page right here, which we kind of just saw in this section. So the add to home screen, show in share sheet, and then receive what's on screen, all of that. These kind of sections have been moved around a little bit. We also have a ton of new actions in iOS 16. So it would take me forever to say every single one, but you can see optimize file size of PDF, scan QR code, split PDF into pages, just multiple different actions that have been added here in iOS 16. You'll also notice that the gallery glyph icon down here in the bottom navigation bar has changed. Another nice change that I noticed after setting up some shortcuts in iOS 16 is that the shortcuts that are activated by Siri no longer require a setup process to use them. So if you downloaded an application, shortcuts can be activated by Siri right away. You don't have to open up that application anymore. Now, if we go into our settings and go into focus and go down to the bottom, you will see that we have a new section down there that says focus status. And if you tap on that, you now have the option to turn on or off focus status on a per focus mode basis. So instead of having just an overall kill switch to turn your focus status on or off, you can now turn it off for specific focus modes only. So if I didn't want people to know that I had notifications silenced while I was driving or while I was shooting a TikTok, I could turn both of those off and now the other person will not see when I'm in a focus mode and I have notifications off, but they will see it when I'm in any of these other focus modes. And then if we go into a focus mode, you can see we have a new UI right here. So you can see the name of the focus mode big, and we have the icon big and centered now in iOS 16. Also under allowed notifications, it now says allow notifications, not allowed notifications. And you can see it looks different here where we have apps and people separated. And when you tap on people, for example, you can see that it now shows silence notifications from or allow notifications from, and it makes it easier to kind of know what you're doing here because it was kind of confusing in iOS 15. You also have allow calls from, and you could change it to whatever you want right there without opening up a whole new window. And we also have allow repeated calls right there as well that says a second call from the same person within 3 minutes will not be silenced. And if you go into the apps section, you can see a nice UI difference here as well. Also, before it showed time sensitive, now it says time sensitive notifications. And it also doesn't have that little yellow glyph icon next to it. And then also you can see right here under customize screens, you now have the option to choose a lock screen or home screen to turn on while you have that focus mode turned on. So you can do it for your lock screen, home screen, and even your watch face. So all of them will change if you want them to when you activate this specific focus mode. And it's so much easier to do it now because before you had to go into home screen and change it right there and then go into lock screen and change it there as well. So now it's much easier to change those screens in iOS 16. Also, instead of turn on automatically or under the turn on automatically, it now says add schedule instead of add schedule or automation. And when you tap on that, you can see here a small change in the text size, the boldness of where it says smart activation. Also, everything is kind of together more than it was in iOS 15. There was some padding between these in iOS 15. And then down at the very bottom is focus filters. So it says customize how your apps and device behave when this focus is on. So you have system filters. So you can have your appearance set to dark mode when this focus mode turns on. You can have low power mode turn on when this focus mode is turned on. You can have things like for calendar, you can have different settings for your calendar, for your mail, for your Safari, for your messages. You could just do a ton with focus filters, and really focus modes have really been supercharged here in iOS 16. We have some nice changes to the contacts application. So we now have lists that we can create. So before we had little groups right here and we could show like our test contacts, for example, and you can see this is how it would look. Here's how it looks now in iOS 16. So it shows the name of the list real big up there. We do also have this little mail icon up top that will send a message to everybody in that contact list. And when you haptic press on a contact, you now finally get the option to remove that contact from your phone, either delete contact or remove them from the list. So now you no longer need to go all the way into the contact, go all the way to edit, and then all the way down to the bottom to delete a contact. It was always so cumbersome, but now with iOS 16, it's very easy to delete the contact straight from haptic pressing on it. And you'll also notice that the UI of everything has changed here in iOS 16 as well. We do also have the copy, share, make this my card options. So if you go to share, for example, you can actually export this now. You can export this contact and you can filter the fields that export to the other person. So if you tap on filter fields, you can see if it had like the address of the person, the phone number, you'd be able to select what you actually want to send to the other person you're sharing this contact with. So for example, if I wanted to send somebody this contact, but I did not want it to include the email address, I would just simply deselect that right there and then tap on done and then send it to the person. But definitely the best feature in iOS 16 related to contacts is the ability to remove duplicates. So if I go to all iCloud right here, you will see up top, it shows that 107 duplicate contacts were found. Now, if I tap on view duplicates right there, you can see that it shows all of my contacts here where it detected a duplicate. And down at the bottom, we have the option to merge all or ignore all. Now, if I wanted to go into a specific one, like if I go into this one right here, you can see that it shows like what has been found. So you can see they're both under iCloud, the exact same name and the same number. So you can merge these. That way it only keeps one of the contacts. And of course, if you had another contact with the same name, but one had the email and another had the phone number, if you press on merge, it would combine those two, but make one contact instead of having two separate contacts for the same person. So if you tap on merge, there we go. It says, are you sure you'd like to merge duplicate contact information into one contact card? Tap on merge, and there you go, you're done. And that's a great feature because I don't know about you guys, but back in the day, I had so many duplicate contacts just from iCloud and SIM cards and things like that. So this has made it much easier to cut down on my duplicate contacts. And one final thing I wanted to mention about contacts is that you can now export and import between other accounts like iCloud to Outlook. And all you have to do is simply take and drag on this contact, and you will see you get this little menu here, and you can take and drag this into like Outlook or whatever other email client or whatever other application you have where you store contacts, and you can drop these in there and you'll be able to import and export between applications and accounts. Very convenient. In the health application, we have a new section here for medications. So now with iOS 16, you're able to create a medications list to keep track of your medications, your vitamins, and the supplements that you take. And you're also able to add reminders to take those said pills or vitamins, whatever it is, at specific times. So we're going to start off easy. We're going to start off by adding medication. Let's go to add medication right here. And from here, you're able to take a picture of it or just simply search for it. So I'm going to search for Claritin. And once you start typing that in, you will see some possible matches. And if you don't see what you're looking for, you can go down here and add it as its own custom medicine. But for instance, let's just say we want to do this one right here. Now we will choose the medication type. So is it an oral solution? Is it a syrup? Is it a tablet? Or you can tap on show more to get really specific with the type of medicine this is. Let's just say it's an oral solution. Let's go to next. Now you choose the medication strength, and then you get to choose when will you take this. So do you take it every single day, on specific days of the week as needed, and you can choose all of that right here along with the start date. You can really get very precise with this. Now let's add the time of day. Let's just say 7:45 p.m. Let's tap on next, and now you could choose the shape of the pill or the oral solution, and now you have your schedule right here along with any optional details. And there you go. Once you add it, you could see your log right here. So you could log your medication, and you could also edit the medication down here, and you could see the graphs for specific medication. So if we tap on Claritin, for example, you could see the data just for that specific medication. You could also change your schedule right here if you need to. So if I tap on edit, and let's just change this to 7:50 so you guys can see the alert that I get when I need to take that medication. So let's go ahead out of here and go to the lock screen and show you guys what it looks like when we get a notification. So there it is. You can see it says medications reminder, time to log your 7:50 p.m. medications. You can also now add a vision prescription. So if you have a prescription for glasses or contacts, you can add that in here now. So just tap on add a prescription, and you have all these different options where you can fill out what you need and what you actually have as your prescription. We also get a nice change to the sleep section. So on iOS 16, you can see some changes here. So we have this little eye right here, which shows our different sleep stages. So now it will track our sleep stages like awake, REM sleep, core sleep, and deep sleep. So when you go to show more sleep data, you can see that it now breaks it down by the type of sleep. And you also have stages, amounts, and comparisons to other days, weeks, months, or the last 6 months. And when you tap on add data up in the top right, you could also add data for those different sleep modes or like the different types of sleep. And if you are a woman, we now have cycle deviation notifications that will notify you of infrequent periods, irregular periods, prolonged periods, or persistent spotting. And you can see right here, we have the infrequent periods and irregular cycles right there. So that can be very handy for you women. And if we tap on the sharing tab down in the bottom, you can see that the share with someone button is much bigger now in iOS 16. And then also we have a new option there for ask someone to share. So this will just send somebody a sharing invitation. You could just copy it, or you can send it just like so through messages, mail, or wherever. And then right below that, it will show sharing with you if somebody is sharing their data with you. We also have a new style for the sleep widget. So you can see we have this one right here. And now we also have this one that shows your most recent sleep session, including your sleep stages. Now we also have some changes in the settings application. So if we go to our settings, you will notice up top that the family sharing section has now been moved below our iCloud section up top. And when you tap on that, it shows all of your family information along with a family checklist. And if you tap on the family checklist, you can see you can set your communication limits in here, add your family to medical ID, all of those important things. Then you also have your subscriptions, purchase sharing, and location sharing all right here. And if you wanted to add a member to your family or create a child account, before you had to tap on this little plus add member right there, but now in iOS 16 it's up in the top right. If you tap on that, you will see that you get a brand new splash screen that looks much better than it did on iOS 15. And before it said invite people, now it says invite others or create a child account versus create an account for a child. So verbiage changes and just a new UI here as well. Also, the family sharing icon has changed as well. Now, if we head back to the iCloud section and then tap on iCloud right here, you will notice that this is sectioned off more now and it's easier to digest. So iCloud backup is now right here front and center, whereas before you had to tap onto iCloud backup and then go into it right there, but now it's just right on the main screen. You also have apps using iCloud. Instead of a big long list of all your applications using iCloud, it's now a drop down. So if you tap on that, it will show all of them, but for right now it only shows these ones that are using iCloud. Then you have iCloud Plus down there and share with family. So everything is just laid out in a much better manner. If you go on manage storage, which by the way is now manage account storage, Before it was just manage storage. But once you go in here, if you go to photos, you will notice that it now says turn off and delete from iCloud when you go to remove photos versus disable and delete, which is what it was on iOS 15. And while we're in this section, you will notice under iCloud Plus that we have a new toggle down here for custom email domain. So if you tap on that, you could actually purchase a domain name straight from your iPhone using iCloud Plus. So this is a pretty cool feature. So it says get your custom email address. You could buy the domain or use a domain that you own. So I'm going to tap on buy a domain, and from here you can search for one. I'm just going to search for brandonbutch.io. So that domain is available, and it also gives us some additional domains down here that we may be interested in. Now if we tap on that and then go to next, you will see that we could actually purchase this at Cloudflare. So let's go ahead and tap on continue, and it opens this up where we can complete the purchase. Hide My Email is also now integrated directly into QuickType keyboard suggestions, so that you could keep your personal email address private in third-party applications. And then lastly, if we go into our iCloud settings and then to password and security, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see that we have a new option here that says advanced, and it says automatic verification. And this basically is going to allow you to bypass CAPTCHAs in applications and in Safari by allowing iCloud to automatically and privately verify your device and account. So this is a way that Apple is working with Cloudflare, which they pretty much run the internet at this point. Almost every big website uses Cloudflare, and they put out a blog post on how this works. But basically, you're not going to have to use CAPTCHAs anymore to like log in or register on an account. It's going to bypass that by knowing that you're a human because you're using your iPhone with a legit Apple ID. Also in our settings, if we go to home screen, we do have that new option there for search to show the little search button down there on the home page or not. That is just to invoke Spotlight Search. That is a new toggle there. If we head into our settings and go to general and then down to keyboard, you will notice at the bottom we now have auto punctuation for dictation. I talked about that earlier, but you do have the option to turn that off if you don't like it. And speaking of the keyboard, one of my favorite features in iOS 16 is if we go to our settings and then to sounds and haptics, and then down a little bit, you will see keyboard feedback. So that is new, and you have the option now to do either a sound every time you tap a key on the keyboard or a haptic or both. But now when you type, you will feel the haptics every time you press a key, and it feels really good. We do also have additional keyboard improvements for other languages, as you can see on the screen right now. And there are also new languages added for emoji search. And then also at the bottom, we have this section right here where you can play haptics in ring mode and or in silent mode. So it says that in ring mode, you hear ringtones and alerts. In silent mode, you don't hear ringtones and alerts. iPhone can still play sounds like when you play music or videos, but obviously this is just for the haptics right here. So if you want the haptics to be on when you're in silent mode, you could turn that on or off right there. And if we scroll down in settings, you will see that privacy is now privacy and security. So if we go into there, you will also notice some changes in here. So we have safety check right here, and it says protect your personal safety by staying aware of which people, apps, and devices have access to your information. So if you tap in on this, you can see we get this screen right here where we have an emergency reset and manage sharing and access. And if you tap on continue, it shows all of the information that you're sharing with people. So this is the people tab that shows the individuals, the contacts that you have information being shared with. If you tap on information, it will show you exactly which information is being shared with those people. And if you would like to revoke that, sharing privilege, you just select it and you will stop sharing it by tapping on stop sharing. And then you could also see which apps have access to what information. So you can see all of the apps listed right here, and then all of the information that was gathered by those applications, and you can revoke access right there if you want to as well. And then going back to the main settings page, you also have the emergency reset where it says immediately reset access for all people and apps and review your account security. So that is also a good option to have if you just want to revoke everything from everybody. And Apple was really marketing this at people in like abusive relationships and, where they have a partner who has to have, tabs on where they are at all times and access to their accounts. This is a way to potentially break away from that. And then if we go down all the way to the bottom, you will see another new feature called lockdown mode. Now, if you tap on that, you will see this right here that says lockdown mode is an extreme optional protection that should only be used if you believe you may be personally targeted targeted by a highly sophisticated cyber attack. So basically this is meant for people who are maybe high up at a public company or work in cybersecurity or like government officials. Those are the only people who should really be considering lockdown mode. But if you tap on turn on lockdown mode, it shows what it does. So it shows messages. Most message attachments are blocked and some features are unavailable. FaceTime calls are blocked. Web browsing, features are blocked. Shared albums may be removed. Just a lot of different things. Basically, you're not really able to use your phone for very many things. So, and that's obviously for security reasons, but that is a cool new feature there for a very select few. Another very useful change in settings has to do with Wi-Fi. So if you go into your Wi-Fi, you will notice that we now have an edit button up in the top right-hand corner. And what that does is if you tap on edit, it will actually show you all of your previously connected networks. So it will show you every network that you've ever connected to. And from here, you're able to remove them very easily, remove a known network. And also if you tap on the eye right there, it will show you more information about said network. And you can also copy and paste the password right there. If we go into the App Store settings, you will notice under automatic downloads that we now have verbiage under both app downloads and app updates. On iOS 15, it kind of just showed them with the toggles, but now you get more information about app downloads and updates. If we head into the Game Center section in settings, you will see a complete overhaul to the UI here. So a lot of things have changed. We do also have some additional functionality as well. So you can now sync your contacts and see friends' activity along with SharePlay support for Game Center if it is supported. So you do have to have, Game Center multiplayer support to have SharePlay integration, but you could start playing with another person while on a FaceTime call. Now, if we head into accessibility, we do also have quite a few accessibility changes here in iOS 16. And the first one you might notice when you first go into here is number one, we have control nearby devices. And it says this allows you to use another device on the same iCloud account from this iPhone. For example, you could start and stop media, activate buttons, or interact with Siri. So here's how this works. I'm going to tap on this real quick and we're going to go ahead and connect to, let's just do my main device right here. So we're going to unlock this so I can show you guys how this works. And it shows that that device is connected. You can see that new alert right there up top. All right, so I'm going to control my iPhone 13 Pro with my 13 Pro Max. So for example, if we tap on this, it will go home. If we tap on this, it will go to the app switcher. Now we can't move like left and right. We don't have like a cursor or anything like that or like a trackpad. But if we go to this notifications right there, it will show our notification center. We can pull down our control center by simply tapping on that and then tapping again to dismiss it. We have Siri right there, so we can access Siri. And then we have these three dots right here, which gives you more options from what you can do here. So you can see you have media controls and everything like that as well. So that is a really nice accessibility feature. We also have Apple Watch mirroring. So if you turn this on, you will be able to control your Apple Watch with certain functions. If we head down to accessibility shortcuts, we do have a few things added in here as well. So all of the ones that are checked are new. So we have Apple Watch mirroring, control nearby devices, and live captions. So all three of those are new. Now, speaking of live captions, that is another nice new feature here in iOS 16. So it is still in beta as of the time of recording this, but you can actually have captions for everything on your device. So it says if you enable this, your iPhone will use on-device intelligence to automatically display captions across all apps. And here's what the UI looks like. And if you tap on this, it will put it over in a little circle so it's out of the way, but you could also do it from the speaker. So it will listen to me right now and it will show the captions for what I'm saying. But what it's meant for is mainly like when you're watching YouTube videos or Netflix shows or something like that. So I'm going to go into YouTube right here. Let's go ahead and ignore this limit. All right, so we're going to go into this video right here and you can see that it shows everything that is being said right there in the little UI for live captions. So this is great, especially for those hard of hearing or deaf. You can now hear, natively, you can see what the person is saying without having to rely on captions on YouTube or on Netflix, and now uses on-device intelligence to determine what is being said, and it will show you right there. You could also view this in full screen if you would like to see it this way. You can also change the appearance. If you go on appearance right here, you can change the text to be bold or not. You can change the text size, the text color, the background color, and also the idle opacity. So if you don't want it to be very opaque, or if you want it to be fully opaque, you could change that right there. And then we also have in-app live captions. So we have live captions for FaceTime and RTT. So if you would like those to be on, you have the option to do so right there. If we go into the magnifier application, we have some changes here. So if you tap on settings, you can see this little pop-up menu right here, whereas before it would take you to a whole new Windows pane. And from here, you can either save new activity, you have default, or you have settings. So let's go into our settings right here, and you will notice that we have some new things here. So we have detection mode. That is new. We have activities right here. And then we also have these detectors for people detection, door detection, and image descriptions. So if you tap on people detection, you can see you can change how you want that to work. So you can do it in meters or feet. You have the sound pitch distance, you have your feedback, and also down here we have door detection, which is really useful if you're like walking around the house and you need to know where the doors are. You can do that right there. You could also turn this on via back tap. You just have a lot of different settings in here, and the same with image descriptions. You could have this be either in text or speech. If we go into the Siri section right here, we have a couple of changes here as well. So we have Siri pause time now. So you could change the amount of time that Siri waits for you to finish speaking. So you have the default time, or you have longer or longest. So if you find yourself, saying things kind of slow and Siri stops listening after a while, you can change that to have the pause time be longer. We have announced notifications on speaker. So it says Siri announces your notifications to you over your device's speaker. So you could turn that on. And then we do also have the option down here for call hang up. So you could turn that on or off, where you can say, hey Siri, end the phone call or FaceTime call without having to actually press any button on your phone. And under spoken responses, you can see that before it was just always when silent mode is off or only with Hey Siri, but now it's either automatic or prefer spoken responses. And then you have the toggle down here for always listen for Hey Siri. If we head into our sound recognition settings and then go to sounds, you can see that you can now add a custom alarm along with a custom appliance or doorbell. So if I go ahead to custom alarm, you get this splash screen right here that says electronic sounds, listening, and notification. And then you can name the alarm and also play the sound that your device needs to listen to for this custom alarm. iOS 16 also adds 20 additional languages for voiceover. So if you go to speech right here and then go to add new language, you can see we have quite a few new languages here with this new update. And speaking of voice control, we now also have spelling mode. So if you needed to spell something out, the iPhone would not just spell it out like you say it. It's actually going to make it form into a name or a sentence or whatever you're saying. So that has now been added, and VoiceOver seems to be getting smarter. And if you play games on your device, we now have a new feature called Buddy Controller that allows you to combine two game controllers to operate as a single input. If we head into the Files application, you will notice on the navigation bar at the bottom, we now have a new tab for shared. So if anything has been shared with you, you now have a separate tab for that. And if you haptic press on a file, you will notice that we now have a new setting right here for quick actions. So if you tap on quick actions, you get these quick actions that you can do right away. So we have markup, rotate, create PDF, convert image, which is a very handy one, and also remove background. So you can do all of those now with a simple haptic press. And I cannot tell you how many times I've converted images using this quick action. And while we're in this folder, if we tap on the three dots up in the top right hand corner, you can see at the bottom now we have view options, and we can group by and also show all extensions. So before you could group by, but it was only by the kind, date, and size. Now you can do it by shared by as well. If you tap on the three dots up in the top right hand corner, you can see that we now have view options, whereas before it just showed this, use groups and group by. And most importantly down here, we have show all extensions. So you can turn that on or off so you can see the file extension for all applications. So right now it's turned off, but if I go back up there and turn that on, you can see that it shows the extension for all of those files. They're all JPEGs. Now, something else that's really great in iOS 16 is that you can actually change the extensions of files yourself. So if you go ahead right here, and let's just go to, we're going to go to rename it, and we're going to go to the end right here where it shows JPEG, and we're going to change that to a PNG, and it's going to allow us to. So we tap on done, it's going to say, do you want to change the file extension to PNG? And you could opt to do that or not. So now you can do that straight from the Files app without anything else needed. You'll also notice up top where we have the name of the folder, we have a little drop down right there. And if you tap on that little arrow up top, you will have this section right here where it shows the full storage of that specific folder. So this one, for example, is pretty small, but it shows that we have 3.5 megabytes. We have iCloud Drive, rename, copy, move, and Get Info. If you tap on Get Info, you can see all the information about that folder. Now, what's cool right here is that we also have the option to share. So you could send a copy, or you could also collaborate with somebody straight from this menu. And if you've ever been curious about the size of a folder in your Files app, you could actually see that now. So if you haptic press on a folder right here and you go to Get Info, it will now show the size of the folder. So you can see right there, it shows size. On iOS 15, it did not show the size anywhere. And if you go into a file, you will notice some changes here as well. So on iOS 15, we had done in the top left. Now it's this little 3 dots right here, the 3 lines rather, that shows all of the other files in that folder. So that was in the bottom right before. And then also up top, we have this little drop down right here that shows the name of the file. And it also shows other options that you could do right there, like exporting, printing, renaming. And it also does not show 6 out of 6 anymore like it did in iOS 15. And markup is now in the bottom right corner instead of in the top right. The copy and paste menu also looks completely different now. So if you copy a file right here, and if you tap in iOS 15 to paste, it's also much harder to do in iOS 15 for whatever reason. So let's try to tap and hold. It's really hard to invoke for some reason. So that's what it looked like in iOS 15, just that very boring black. But now in iOS 16, if you tap and hold on a blank space, not only does it come up easy like the first time every time, but you also have this menu right here where you can have new folder, paste, scan documents, get info, and also undo. So you can undo and redo in files now. Now in the stocks application, we can have multiple watch lists. So if you go right here, you will see that we have my symbols. And then I also have 3 separate watch lists right here with different stocks in them. And now you can also add a new watch list right here. So enter a name for that watch list and it will take you there, and you can start adding symbols to add to that watch list. You also have manage watch lists right here where you can move them around, edit, or remove them. We also now have earnings dates added to the stocks application. So you can see it shows the earnings report is coming soon, and we can add that to our calendar. So it shows this little pop-up here as well that says earnings expected soon. Create a calendar event so you don't miss the upcoming report. So if you tap on add to calendar, it will add that straight to your calendar right there. And we also have a new look to one of the widgets. So if we go to stocks right here and go to the second watch list, this rectangular one right here, and we go to add widget, and we go ahead and change this to one of our watch lists with multiple items on it, and we select both of these to show more details and the watch list name, you can see that we now have 2 columns of information instead of just 1. The books application also gets a nice UI overhaul, so you will see right away that there's a pretty big difference in the UI. So it shows the name of the book up top. We don't have the page numbers showing like that anymore. We just have the simple page at the bottom. This is the same book on both devices, by the way. So you can see we have the X up in the top right, and we also have this little button down here in the bottom right hand corner. And from here, you will see that it shows the contents, how far along we are in the book, the bookmarks and highlights, search book, and then we have themes and settings. And this is cool because we can change the text. We have options right here where we can change the font, and we have bold text as well, along with customizing the line spacing and all of this. And if we tap on this button right here, we have the option to do light, dark, match device, or match surroundings. So you could do a match surroundings option now, which is pretty cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and switch it back to light mode though. And you do also have these themes right here as well. So you can have a bold theme, a calm theme, a focus theme, a quiet theme, and a paper theme. And all of them have a different look to the words, the background, all of that. So pretty cool. A lot of options now for the Books app. You'll also notice a change in the animation when you change pages. So here's what it looked like in iOS 15. You can see it looks like a page, of course, flipping, but now it looks a little bit cleaner and more modern here on iOS 16. And I just actually realized that you can bookmark a page by simply double tapping on it. And you can see you get the bookmark icon right there. So that is a quick and easy way to do that. You could also see the page out of. So if you double tap right there, it will show you the page out of how many pages total in the book. If we head down to the audiobooks tab and we play an audiobook, you will see that we have a completely redesigned mini player. So before it was just this little mini player down on the bottom, and that was it. You couldn't really expand on that. But now in iOS 16, it's more reminiscent of the music and the podcasts application. You do also have the sleep button down here, so you could turn off the audiobook at a set time. You can also change the speed of the audiobook, and you do also have these 3 dots dots right here where you have some additional settings. In the news application, Apple has said that they've been adding more local news to your news application if you have location turned on. Now also if you go over to the following section right here, we now have favorites. So if you favorited something, you could see those right here, whereas before it did not show any favorites over here on iOS 15. And if we go back to the today view, we also have My Sports. So this is a brand new section in the news application that allows you to track all of your favorite sports teams, and you can see all of the latest news and things like that. So if you tap on Get Started, it will allow you to enable this and add your favorite teams. So for example, if I wanted NFL, MLB, and NBA, and you can see that now when you go to one of these channels, so for example, the NBA channel, if I go right here, you can see that it has a complete overhaul in iOS 16. Instead of just looking like every other channel and every other, topic right here, it now has its own look. So I think it looks awesome. Apple's really starting to focus on sports with iOS 16. And if you tap on the three dots, you can see that League has replaced the term topic. And while I'm in here, I'm just going to go ahead and add my favorite team, the Miami Heat right there. And we're going to go ahead and tap on add to add that to my favorites. And now we have the Miami Heat showing up top. We have some changes in the Translate application. So we now have a new camera icon down in the bottom. And this is a brand new way to translate. So if I go ahead and put this up right here, it will translate everything I see on the screen. So if I take a picture of what I have right there and I wanted to translate that, I can now do so, and you can see it kind of outlines the text that is detected, and you can translate that in the Translate application. You also have the option to choose another image or share or just cancel. And we also have some additional languages added to Translate, and those are Dutch, Indonesian, Polish, Thai, Turkish, and Vietnamese. All of those are now added in Translate. App clips now support more sophisticated applications that are bigger in size, so they don't need to be really small apps anymore. And also if you use the Spotlight and Siri Suggestions widget, you will see nearby suggested app clips. In the Find My application, we have a UI change for the Me tab. So you can see up top some changes to that. We also have the My Location glyph icon added up top, and the address has been moved, and it now just says our location is right here. So there you have it. Those are all of the new features and changes found in iOS 16. I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into the software. And if you want to go even deeper into specific applications, like I mentioned earlier, I do have a video specific on the lock screen, one for notes, one for reminders. So if you want to get really specific into those specific applications, I will leave those videos linked down in the description below. And of course, if you want to get your hands on this wallpaper, I will leave that linked down in the description below as well. This is from my very first wallpaper pack, which I'm pretty proud of. But anyways, guys, I don't want to keep you here any longer. I know you've been sticking around for a long time throughout this video, but I appreciate that. And if you guys appreciate my hard work that went into this video, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. There's a lot of appreciation going on right now. And if you guys want to see more videos just like this, it would be awesome if you would consider subscribing to the channel. I'm really trying to hit that 1 million mark. But anyways, guys, so there you have it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.